Listen closely, my friends. Before you try to defeat the world, defeat the weakness inside you. Before you demand respect from others, become someone you can respect, music, in silence. And before you try to control your future, learn to control the mind that, music, is creating it. Because the person who cannot command himself will eventually be commanded, music, by everything around him. Every insult will control his mood. Every temptation will control his actions. Every failure will control his confidence. Every opinion will control his direction. Music, and slowly, without realizing it, he becomes a prisoner. Not of another person, but of his own, music, impulses. The Stoics saw this clearly. The greatest victory is not making the world obey you. It is refusing to let the world control you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Music, you have power over your mind, not outside events." Think about the depth of that principle. You cannot, music, command the storm, but you can command the hands holding the wheel. You cannot stop the mountain from being, music, surrounded by wind and snow, but you can become like the mountain, strong enough to remain standing while everything around you, music, changes. That is why self-mastery comes first. Before wealth, before status, before influence, before success, there must be discipline. Because if you become powerful without mastering yourself, your power becomes, music, dangerous. If you gain money without mastering desire, you will always want more. If you gain, music, attention without mastering your ego, you will become addicted to approval. And if you gain success, music, without mastering your mind, one failure can bring the entire structure crashing down. Imagine a diamond buried deep inside a rough stone. Nobody sees its value from the outside. It must endure pressure, music, cutting, friction, and patience before its true form appears. You are the same. Your potential is already there, but potential means nothing without the discipline required to uncover it. And that transformation, music, does not happen through one decision or one moment of motivation. It happens through a series of principles, small shifts in the way you think, react, choose, and live. Each one strengthens another part of your character, music, until little by little you become harder to distract, harder to manipulate, music, and harder to break. So, over the next 9 Stoic principles, we are going to enter that, music, process of self-mastery, learning how to control your reactions, discipline your desires, protect your attention, face discomfort, strengthen your character, music, and build a mind that does not collapse every time life refuses to cooperate. And as we move through these 9 principles, music, pay close attention not only to the ideas themselves, but to the parts of your own life they expose. Music, because the real question is not whether these principles sound powerful, the real question is whether you are willing to live by them. Because the goal is not to become emotionless. The goal is to become, music, the person who feels everything, but is ruled by nothing. And once you master yourself first, the world, music, becomes much harder to defeat you. Principle 1: Master your reactions. The first sign of self-mastery, music, is not how calmly you behave when everything goes your way. It is what happens inside you when someone pushes the exact button they know will make you explode. Someone insults you. Someone disrespects you. Someone ignores you. Someone takes credit, music, for your work. Your first instinct screams, react. Defend yourself. Make them regret, music, it. But that tiny moment between what happens and what you do next is where your, music, freedom lives. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that, music, matters. The depth of this idea is easy to underestimate. You cannot always control the first emotion that rises inside you, but you can control, music, whether you feed it. Anger can knock on the door without being invited, music, inside. Fear can appear without being allowed to make the decision. Feeling something, music, is not the same as obeying it. Think of a powerful wild animal. A lion has enormous strength, but strength without control, music, is simply chaos. The lion does not chase every sound in the forest. It doesn't waste its energy attacking, music, every creature that crosses its path. It watches. It waits. It moves when, music, movement serves a purpose. That is controlled power. Your anger should work the same way. You don't need to react to every provocation simply because someone, music, successfully provoked you. Marcus Aurelius faced criticism, betrayal, music, war, and people who actively worked against him. Yet he repeatedly returned to the same discipline. Music, control the mind before allowing the mind to control the body. Imagine if every insult could command your attention. Every criticism could destroy your confidence. Every disagreement could steal your peace. You wouldn't be living your life anymore. You would be reacting to everyone else's behavior. Modern psychology, music, gives us a similar insight. The pause between stimulus and response creates room for deliberate, choice. And that pause can become your greatest weapon. When someone sends you an angry message, don't immediately answer. When someone humiliates you, don't rush to prove yourself. When your emotions rise, create distance, before you create consequences. Ask yourself, if I respond right now, am I acting from strength or am I simply obeying an emotion? That one question can change your life. Because sometimes the most, powerful response is not the clever comeback. It is silence. Sometimes winning isn't making the, other person feel small. It's refusing to let their behavior make you smaller. A mountain does not chase the storm that passes over it. The storm arrives with violence, makes noise, and eventually disappears. The mountain, remains. Become that stable. Let emotions pass through, you without becoming your identity. Master your reaction and you begin mastering yourself. Because once you stop giving every person, every insult, and every unexpected event, the power to control your emotions, something extraordinary happens. You become difficult, to manipulate. And a person who cannot be easily provoked is a person who cannot be easily controlled. Principle 2, control your desires before, they control you. Most people think freedom means getting whatever they want. The Stoics, understood the opposite. You are not truly free when you need everything you desire. If you cannot be happy without money, you are controlled by money. If you cannot feel valuable without attention, you are controlled, by attention. If you cannot feel satisfied without constant entertainment, you are controlled, by stimulation. And if you cannot walk away from something you know is destroying you, then that thing owns a piece of you. This is one of the deepest, battles of self-mastery because desire rarely announces itself as a weakness. It disguises, itself as a reasonable thought. I deserve this. Just one more. I'll stop, tomorrow. Everyone else has it. Slowly the mind begins negotiating with itself, until discipline becomes optional. The chains are invisible, but they are still chains. Epictetus taught, that when you desire something, you should understand what you are making yourself dependent upon. The Stoic question isn't simply, can I have this? It is, can I remain whole if I don't, have it? That question exposes the difference between enjoying something and being, enslaved by it. Think about the ocean. A wave can rise, 10 feet into the sky, but eventually it must return to the water. Human desire behaves the same way. You achieve something and for a moment, you feel complete. Then the mind whispers, what's next? A better car, more money, more followers, more recognition, more pleasure. The finish line keeps moving, because desire has learned how to run faster than satisfaction. This is why, some successful people remain miserable. They conquered the mountain but never conquered their appetite. They accumulated, possessions but became possessed by the need to accumulate more. They gained admiration but became terrified of losing it. Their prisons simply became more luxurious. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself to, simplify his desires and return to what actually mattered. Seneca went even further, deliberately practicing periods of simplicity, so that he could discover whether he truly needed the comforts he enjoyed. The point wasn't to hate wealth or pleasure. It was to prove that happiness did not depend on that. Imagine a man carrying a backpack through the mountains. At first, he carries only what he needs, but every time he becomes attached to music, something, he puts another object inside, a luxury, an expectation, music, someone's approval, a fear of missing out, a desire to impress. Eventually, he is exhausted not because the mountain became, music, steeper but because he kept adding weight to the journey. Self-mastery means learning what to put, music, down. You don't have to reject every pleasure. You have to make sure pleasure doesn't become your master. Music, enjoy your success but don't worship it. Enjoy comfort but remain capable of discomfort. Accept praise but don't, music, depend on it. Use money but don't let money decide your worth, because the strongest person is not the one who owns the most. It is the one who needs the least to remain at peace. Try this. Occasionally deny yourself something you want, not because it is evil but because you want to prove that you are still in command. Take the difficult workout when you, music, could take the easy option. Put the phone away when your mind demands stimulation. Music, leave the unnecessary purchase. Sit alone without entertainment. Choose discipline when nobody will ever know you chose it. Music, every time you resist an unnecessary desire, you strengthen the part of yourself that says, I decide. And that is the real meaning of freedom. Music, because when you master your desires, you stop chasing everything the music world tells you to want, and finally become free to pursue what actually matters. Master what you want, or what you want will eventually master you. Principle 3: Master your attention before the world steals it. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you possess. Yet most people, music, give it away without realizing what they are losing. Every notification, music, every argument, every comparison, every piece of meaningless content, music, is asking for a piece of your mind. And if you never decide what deserves your attention, the world will decide for you. The frightening part is, music, that you can lose years this way without ever feeling like you made a decision. You wake, music, up, check your phone, scroll through other people's lives, compare your progress, music, with strangers, consume endless opinions, and then wonder why you feel mentally exhausted, music, before the day has even begun. Your body may be sitting in one place, but your mind has already been dragged through 100 different worlds. Marcus Aurelius understood the importance of guarding the mind. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color, music, of its thoughts." Think about that image. A piece of white cloth placed, music, repeatedly into dark water eventually changes color. Your mind works the same way. What you repeatedly, music, watch, listen to, think about, and obsess over, music, eventually becomes part of the person you are. This is why attention is, music, not merely concentration. Attention is identity under construction. What you focus on repeatedly becomes what you notice. What you notice repeatedly becomes what you think about. What you think about repeatedly, music, influences your actions. And your actions repeated long enough become your, music, character. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship with a compass in your hand. If you, music, constantly turn the compass toward every passing noise, you will never maintain a direction. A disciplined mind works differently. Music, it knows where it is going and it refuses to change course every time something demands attention. That doesn't mean ignoring the world. It means becoming selective, music, about what deserves entry into your mind. When someone, music, insults you online, ask yourself, does this deserve my attention? When you see someone else's success and feel inferior, ask, will comparison make me better or simply make me miserable? When your phone pulls you toward another hour of distraction, music, ask, what am I exchanging for this moment of entertainment? Because every yes to distraction is secretly a no, music, to something else. You cannot give your attention to everything and still expect to become exceptional at something. A laser becomes powerful because its energy is concentrated. Scattered light can illuminate a room, but concentrated light can, music, cut through steel. Your mind works the same way. Scattered attention creates ordinary results. Focused attention creates transformation. Music, Steve Jobs famously understood the power of saying no. Not only to bad ideas, but to good ideas that distracted, music, from the most important ones. That is a principle of self-mastery. You don't become powerful by doing everything. You become powerful by knowing what deserves everything you've, music, got. The Stoic doesn't ask, what is everyone else doing? He asks, what deserves my attention? Music, and once you begin asking that question, your life starts becoming, music, quieter. You stop reacting to every headline. You stop entering every argument. You stop explaining yourself to people, music, committed to misunderstanding you. You stop measuring your life against, music, someone else's carefully edited existence. You begin protecting your mental, music, territory. Because your mind is a fortress, but unlike a physical fortress, music, its gates are often controlled by your own habits. So, guard them. Choose what you consume. Choose what you discuss. Choose what you repeatedly think, music, about. Choose what you allow to occupy your emotional space. Because whatever controls your attention eventually, music, influences your direction. And if you master your attention, you take back something most people spend, music, their entire lives giving away. The ability to decide where your mind goes. Principle 4, master your comfort before it weakens you. Comfort is one of the most beautiful traps in human life, because it rarely feels like a trap while you are inside it. It feels like safety. It feels like rest. It tells you you have done enough. Stay here. Tomorrow will be better. But every time you choose comfort, music, when growth requires discomfort, you teach your mind a dangerous, music, lesson. When life becomes difficult, run. The Stoics, music, understood that a person who is never tested never truly discovers what he is made of. Seneca deliberately practiced periods of simplicity and discomfort, not because he hated comfort, but because he wanted to know that comfort could, music, disappear without destroying him. He once asked himself, in essence, whether he could endure, music, poverty so that wealth would never become his master. That is a completely different level of strength. Think about a wild animal raised entirely in captivity. Music, it may die. It may never experience hunger, cold, danger, or uncertainty. But remove the walls and it may discover that comfort never taught it how to survive. Music, strength is not created by removing every difficulty. Strength is created by meeting, music, difficulty and discovering that you can survive it. This is why voluntary discomfort is so powerful. Take the, music, cold shower when you could choose warmth. Finish the workout when your mind tells, music, you to stop. Wake up when the bed feels impossible to leave. Spend an evening without your phone. Do the difficult task, music, before the easy entertainment. Go through a period where you deliberately consume, music, less, complain less, and seek less convenience. These actions may look insignificant from the outside, but internally they are sending a message: my impulses do not command me. And that message becomes powerful over time because life will eventually create, music, discomfort you didn't choose. You will lose someone. You will fail. Someone will reject you. Money, music, may disappear. Plans may collapse. Your body may become tired. A door you desperately wanted may close in your face. Music, you cannot prepare for every storm, but you can prepare the person who will stand inside it. Music, imagine two trees growing side by side. One grows in a perfectly protected garden, sheltered from every strong wind. The other grows on the edge of a mountain, music, where storms attack it year after year. The first may look, music, beautiful, but the second develops deeper roots. The wind that threatened to destroy it became the force that taught it how to stand. Your difficulties can do the same for you if you stop asking only, how, music, do I escape this, and start asking, what is this trying to strengthen in me? That question, music, changes everything. Pain becomes training. Failure becomes information. Rejection becomes redirection. Music, discipline becomes freedom. And discomfort becomes a teacher, music, instead of an enemy. But, understand this clearly. Stoicism does not mean deliberately destroying your life or seeking, music, suffering for no reason. The principle is not suffer because suffering is good. The principle is, do not become so, music, dependent on comfort that discomfort can control you. A diamond doesn't become valuable because it avoids pressure. Pressure reveals what was hidden inside the stone. The same is true of you. So, stop measuring your strength, music, by how easy your life feels. Measure it by how well you remain yourself when life becomes difficult, because anyone can be disciplined when they are motivated. Anyone can, music, be calm when everything is going perfectly. Anyone can be confident when they are winning. Self-mastery begins when the conditions disappear and you remain disciplined anyway. Music, master your relationship with comfort and you won't need life to be easy before you can become strong. Principle 5, master your music ego before it masters you. The most dangerous opponent you will ever face may not be the person who hates you. It may be the version of yourself that desperately needs to be seen, praised, music, admired, and proven right. Ego doesn't always look like arrogance. Music, sometimes it looks like needing the last word. Sometimes it looks like being unable to accept, music, criticism. Sometimes it whispers, "They don't appreciate me enough." And sometimes it disguises itself as ambition while secretly making your, music, entire identity dependent on other people's approval. The Stoics understood, music, that external recognition is unstable. Marcus Aurelius could, music, command armies and sit at the center of the Roman Empire, yet he repeatedly reminded himself that fame fades, applause disappears, and eventually every name becomes a memory. If your sense of worth depends, music, on the audience, then the audience owns you. The moment they stop clapping, you start questioning yourself. Imagine a mountain standing, music, beneath the sky. The mountain does not become taller because someone praises it, and it does not become smaller because someone insults it. Its height is not decided, music, by the opinions of the people standing at its base. Your character should work the same way. Music, let your actions determine your worth, not the reaction those actions receive. This is why some people become strangely weaker after, music, success. They don't simply enjoy achievement. They become addicted to being recognized, music, for it. Every compliment becomes another dose. Every criticism becomes a threat. Every person who fails to admire them becomes an enemy. Eventually, they aren't pursuing excellence anymore. They're performing for an invisible audience. Steve Jobs once spoke about having the courage to follow your own intuition, rather than, music, simply living according to other people's expectations. That idea reaches far beyond business. If every decision you make requires approval, then you are not fully living your own life. You are negotiating with an audience that may forget you the moment you leave the room. Self-mastery means learning to do meaningful things even when nobody notices. Train when nobody applauds. Improve when nobody compliments you. Keep your promises when nobody can punish you for breaking them. Admit when you're, music, wrong, even when your ego wants an excuse. And perhaps most importantly, learn to hear criticism without automatically turning it into an attack. Music, not every criticism is correct, but not every criticism is an insult, music, either. A mature mind can listen without surrendering. It can ask, is there something here I need to learn? The ego, music, asks, how dare they say that about me? Wisdom asks, could they be right? That single question can save you from years of repeating the same weakness. There is another side to ego that is even more dangerous, the need to prove yourself to people who don't matter. Someone doubts you, music, and suddenly you restructure your entire life around proving them wrong. Someone leaves and you become obsessed with showing them what they lost. Music, someone succeeds before you and their achievement becomes a personal insult. But understand, music, this, if your motivation is always to prove someone wrong, they still control you. The person who truly masters himself doesn't need revenge. He doesn't need everyone to understand him. He doesn't need to announce every victory. He simply, music, keeps building. A river doesn't stop flowing to argue with every stone, music, in its path. It moves around the obstacle and continues toward the destination. That is the discipline of a quiet ego. Music, you don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to announce every achievement. You don't need everyone to like you. You need to become so secure in your values that applause becomes pleasant music, but unnecessary. Because the moment you stop needing the world to constantly confirm your worth, you become incredibly difficult to control. Master your ego, music, and you stop living for an audience. You start living according, music, to your principles, and that is where real self-mastery begins. Principle, music, 6, master your fear before it master you. Fear is one of, music, the quietest forces controlling human beings. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, music, wait. You're not ready. What if you fail? What will people, music, think? And because the voice sounds reasonable, we mistake fear for wisdom. We call hesitation preparation. We call avoidance patience. We tell ourselves we're protecting our future when in reality, we're protecting ourselves, music, from the discomfort of uncertainty. The Stoics understood something most people discover too late. Courage, music, is not the absence of fear. Courage is refusing to let fear make your decisions. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about how much of your life has been shaped by things that never actually happened. Conversations you were afraid to have, opportunities you were afraid to pursue, risks, music, you never took, dreams you quietly abandoned because your mind showed you a catastrophe before reality ever had the chance to, music, answer. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark forest. You cannot see what is beyond the trees. Your imagination begins filling the darkness with monsters. Music, every sound becomes a threat. Every shadow becomes danger. But when you finally step forward, you discover that much of what terrified you, music, existed only inside your mind. Fear often becomes largest when you refuse, music, to look directly at it. This doesn't mean recklessness. Stoicism, music, isn't telling you to jump blindly into danger. It teaches you, music, to separate real danger from imagined discomfort. Losing your life is danger. Looking foolish for 5 minutes, music, is discomfort. Physical injury is danger. Hearing no is discomfort. Music, financial ruin is serious risk. Someone disliking your decision is, music, not the same thing. Yet, people often sacrifice years of their lives to avoid temporary embarrassment. Ask yourself, what exactly, music, am I afraid of? Then, go deeper. What happens if I fail? What happens if they reject me? What happens if nobody approves? What happens if I discover I'm not as capable as I thought? When you define the fear, it becomes something you can examine instead of something that controls, music, you. Marcus Aurelius faced circumstances that would have broken an ordinary person. War, disease, music, political instability, personal grief, and enormous responsibility. Yet, his philosophy wasn't built around demanding that life become gentle. It was built around becoming strong enough to meet reality without surrendering, music, his character. That is the difference between confidence and self-mastery. Confidence says, I know I will succeed. Self-mastery says, music, even if I fail, I will remain myself. That second belief is far more, music, powerful because once you stop needing certainty before taking action, music, fear loses one of its greatest weapons. You don't, music, need to know exactly how the story ends. You only need enough courage, music, to take the next step. Think about a climber standing beneath a massive mountain. He cannot see the summit clearly from the valley. Clouds cover it. The path disappears around corners. But he doesn't need to see every, music, step before beginning. He climbs one section at a time. Your life works the, music, same way. You don't need to know exactly how your business will succeed. Start. You don't need to know whether everyone will support you, move. You don't need certainty that the relationship will last forever, love with wisdom. You don't need, music, proof that you will win. You need the courage to become someone capable of winning. And remember, fear grows through avoidance. Every time you run from something merely because it scares you, you teach your brain this thing is stronger than, music, me. But every time you face manageable discomfort deliberately, you teach yourself the opposite. Music, I can handle this. That is how courage is built, not in one dramatic moment, but through hundreds of small decisions to stop running. Music, so don't ask yourself to become fearless, become stronger than the fear. Because the goal is not to eliminate fear from your life, the goal is to reach a point where fear can stand beside you, speak loudly, and still fail, to decide where you go. Master your fear and you reclaim the future was trying to steal from you. Principle 7: Master your pain before it defines you. Pain has a strange way of introducing you to yourself. When everything is comfortable, you can believe almost anything about who you are. You can believe you are disciplined, strong, patient, courageous. But pain asks for proof. Failure asks, for proof. Rejection asks for proof. Loss asks for proof. And suddenly, the identity you built in your imagination has to survive contact, with reality. The Stoics never promised a life without pain. They understood something far deeper. Pain is unavoidable, but becoming, weaker because of pain is not. Epictetus was born into slavery and lived with circumstances most people, would consider unbearable. Yet he became one of the most influential voices in Stoic philosophy. His life demonstrated a principle more powerful, than any motivational speech. Your circumstances can restrict your body, without necessarily owning your mind. Imagine a piece of steel being placed into a furnace. The fire does not ask whether the steel is ready. It simply, applies heat. Under that pressure, the weakness inside the material is exposed, impurities are removed, and something stronger can emerge. Your difficult seasons can work the same way. They can destroy you if you surrender to them, or refine you if you use them. This doesn't mean that pain doesn't hurt. Stoicism is not emotional denial. Losing someone hurts. Betrayal hurts. Failure hurts. Watching something you built collapse, hurts. You are allowed to feel the wound. The question is whether you will allow the wound to become your identity. There is a difference between saying, I am hurting, and saying, I am broken. One describes a moment. The other creates a prison. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly, reminded himself to return to reason when circumstances became difficult. Not because he was incapable, of grief, but because he understood that suffering becomes heavier when the mind adds unnecessary resistance to it. Something happened. Then the mind says, this shouldn't have happened. My life is ruined. Why me? I'll never recover.